My name is Jeremy Finger with Riverbend Wealth Management. Thank you for attending. I have with me today Katherine Nixon from the Green Sea area. I've been around this area long time, and she's a CPA who specializes in retirees who maybe have multi-state tax returns, small business owners, and probably a few other areas as well. So thank you, Katherine, for your time today.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me how you came up with Palm and Pine for the name of your firm, and just tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, as you mentioned, I'm from this area, Coastal Carolina graduate, and we're proud of them this year and all their accomplishments. I decided that I wanted to begin my own firm, and I decided I wanted to do it back home. So I set up the firm last year, and it's been a challenging year with all the shutdowns and what have you. But I'm trying to bring to this area a valuable service to small business owners, in particularly, who need that high touch contact with a reliable accountant. I welcome free consultations for any new business owner. I have a passion for helping them exceed their expectations and get everything in the row in order for them to be able to thrive. So, yeah, thank you for allowing me to reach out to anyone that might need that.
All right. Well, yeah, you're most certainly welcome, and I appreciate it. Yeah, I appreciate your time. Well, tell me a little bit. How'd you come up with the name Palm and Pine?
Oh, Palm and Pine. Again, from this area, and as you know, the South full of pine trees, and grew up that way. You did too. And then I just love Myrtle Beach and anything, tropical. We live in paradise here. So to me, that was the first thing that came to mind is Palm and Pine. That represents fully my experience in life, the Southeast and Myrtle Beach.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Kind of like the woods of back home and the sand of Myrtle Beach.
You got it.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, good stuff there. Well, let's tell me a little bit about how you work with. What are some things that people need to think about towards the end of the year? I know every individual is different, but suppose you're a small business owner or an employee or a relocated retiree. What are some of the things that people can be thinking about toward the end of the year that help themselves save money on taxes?
Well, my focus now with clients is trying to get them in a situation they know what to expect when tax season kicks off. So I'm dealing a lot with planning, and that's often an overlooked item for accountants working with their clients. It's important to make sure that they're making those fourth quarter estimates. They know what their tax situation is going into the next year. And what they're going to owe, or maybe get a refund. So I do a lot of tax planning. I can, formulate projections based on the year-end information that I can gather from my clients. So that's a huge focus for me, for any client that it serves well. The other thing would be with my small business owners. If you don't have your records intact and easy to follow and in good order for your accountant, then you're going to cost yourself more money by the time that it takes them to get that in order for you. So when I meet with a small business client, I advocate all of them be on some sort of bookkeeping software, and I have the ability to do that in a way that they can do much of the work themselves, but then I can also jump in and help them along in the points that they can't do themselves. So if the software is in order, the financials are readily available, then we go into the tax season in a good situation where we can get that out the door and get that off their plate and off their mind. If it's not, then it stalls things, and it also makes planning difficult. So those are my big points right now that I'm working on, is helping my small business owners gather their records, get everything in order, before mid-January preferably. And as soon as we have that year-end information, let's get started. And then also the planning for my individual clients so that they know what their tax liability is going to be in April.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So in other words, like for a small business owner who may be disorganized, you making sure that there's some things that you help them do to get set up so that they're more organized all along the way, which in turn saves time and helps you become, be able to plan for them better, which can therefore save them some tax, possibly save them some tax in the future because you could do some planning techniques toward the end of the year and so on. Does that make sense? I mean, is that about what you're saying?
That's exactly right. And also with the COVID, not only have business owners come to understand that you need to have a certain percent of revenues being saved toward these hard times, for
Oh yeah.
viability of the business. Maybe setting up investments with you, for instance, it's important to have that just as an individual needs to have an emergency fund, but also we need to be looking at that business quarterly, especially if it's a pass-through entity that's going to cause them to have to pay tax on their personal return. They need to be making these quarterly payments. If we have them set up on some sort of software system, I can easily go in quarterly and figure out where they stand all throughout the year. And it also helps the business owner budget and look at their cash flow so they can see if there's any kind of trouble on the horizon.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And yeah, from a financial planning standpoint, that's exactly what we do on an individual level, is making sure that someone has enough emergency cash to be able to, you know, handle a lot of things that we may be able to see on the horizon, but God forbid, if some things that are unforeseen, certain surprises, having that emergency fund set aside so that it doesn't upset their retirement or their pre-retirement savings. So that makes sense. That makes some sense. Yeah. Well, good. And you also mentioned like the relocated retiree, and I'm using that term because let's say multiple states of financial returns. Can you tell me a little bit about how you help people do that?
And we certainly have an influx of movement into the area. So all these folks that are moving down, all these folks that are moving down, they've got issues they're facing with maybe selling a home elsewhere. So we have to look at whether you qualify for an exclusion on the gain from that sale. The big thing is you're probably going to have to file more than one state return. And when you file more than one state return, it has to be done very carefully so that you are getting all the credits that you are due. So sometimes there's an allocation of income. We also have a situation now with the remote working. With the COVID situation, it's not necessary always to pay taxes in a different state, but if that remote location situation becomes a permanent situation, then there might be a state tax issue there. So there's a lot of factors whenever you've got activity in various states, and I would highly suggest using an accountant anytime that's your situation.
Yeah, you brought up like remote, and this is just kind of maybe a question that I would get from a client, and you probably may have already had this, but let's suppose there's a lot more remote work from home. Is there, working with a CPA, is there a way that if you're working a lot more from home, there might be some more deductibility on, and I'm just making this up, but mortgage interest or anything like that? Is there any things like that people can think about, like if they are starting to work a lot more from home than the office?
Well, the Tax Cut and Jobs Act that came through eliminated some ability to do that. So a lot of businesses are now utilizing the opportunity to use those expenses for their own bottom line. So during the COVID disaster, there's some special provisions there that businesses can use to make sure that their employees are set up well at home and reimburse some of those costs that are involved with this disaster. After that is no longer the case, then they really need to have an accountable reimbursement plan where the employee would actually put in for reimbursement from the company. So on a personal level, it's difficult to have business expenses count and help you in your on the tax return.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
really,
yeah,
the more that can come through the business, the
yeah.
better off you're going to. But there are home office deductions and mileage and things like that for, in particularly Schedule C businesses. So if you're a Schedule C business, then yes, we can look at the home office deduction and whether we should do the safe harbor or whether we should dive deeper into that. So I welcome that discussion with anyone that has that situation and those questions.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. So like if you're a business owner and are dealing with employees who are working more from home, there's some things that, reimbursement to the employee themselves, and other types of things that they can do to help save money on taxes from a corporate standpoint. But if you're like your own employee or own business owner and you work from home as the individual and as the owner of that business who is working from home, there's some things that they need to talk with a qualified CPA like yourself to maybe, help navigate that tax landscape as well.
Exactly.
Yeah, makes sense. So in other words, it's not always just so nice and easy. I just wish it was easy, but that's why we need, people like yourself to make sure they navigate all the different complexity in the tax law.
Yeah, every situation is going to be unique, and that's why the free consultation that I offer is just for that reason, so that we can sit down and discuss all the nuances of your situation and how I might be able to help you with your questions and your needs. And I just want to mention too that when I first set up the firm, I set up the firm with remote service options, and unbeknownst to me, what we were going to face. But the first thing I do with a client is meet with them and then set them up with a free secure portal. And then we can exchange documents securely throughout the season. Makes it very convenient for individuals. And then also, the complete process can be remote. I don't really have to meet with anyone if they're not comfortable doing so. So it's important that, people know that that's an option.
That's fantastic, and it's good that you're utilizing the technology to do that, especially nowadays. And well, I think people are getting a lot more used to doing things remotely, and technology is certainly available to do that. So that's cool. So how would someone, if they're interested in your services, how would they get in contact with you?
You can go on my website, www.palmandpinecpa.com. There's a place there to book an appointment. So you can easily book an appointment from whatever availability I have. Call me at 855-PALM-CPA, set up a time, that way, or email. So I'll make it as easy as I can for anyone to come in and let's discuss what their situation is this year.
Wonderful, wonderful. And what I'll do is I'll include your contact information in the body of the video, the show notes there, so that anybody can just click on that and get in contact with you with any questions you may have. Well, Katherine, thank you very much for your time today. I appreciate it. And you're doing some good in the community here and helping people make some smart tax decisions. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jeremy.